A man accidentally traveled back 1,000 years to an era full of dangers and heroic battles. The film begins with a young boy riding in a car with his parents. Suddenly, another vehicle swerves into their lane, causing his father to lose control. Their car crashes through the barrier and falls off the bridge into the river. Years later, the now grown boy wakes up in a panic from another nightmare about that terrible accident. After getting dressed, he goes back to bed. While lying there, his phone rings. His mother comes in and says that his friend Vova is calling, but he doesn't want to talk. Understanding her son's hesitation, she reminds him that they're going hiking in the mountains, and another chance to see the solar eclipse won't come for a long time. Knowing that her son is afraid of heights, she manages to convince him to go on the hike. Meanwhile, in a different century, a shaman performs a ritual, asking ancient spirits for help in finding a powerful stone that would allow him to bring the world to its knees. Back in the present, Vitya and his classmates head out on their hike through the forest and mountains. Eventually, the group reaches a suspension bridge. The teacher explains how to cross it carefully, and the children start making their way across one by one. When it's Vitya's turn, he is extremely nervous and anxious. His friend tries to encourage him, but it doesn't help much. Gritting his teeth, Vitya takes a few steps forward but looks down, causing him to panic and fall off the bridge. Vova immediately rushes to help and manages to get him back. The other classmates start teasing him, and when he fell, he accidentally spilled water from a bottle onto his pants. Unable to bear the ridicule, Vitya runs away, with Vova chasing him and catching up near one of the rocks. Vova tries to cheer up his friend. Looking up, the boys see that the eclipse has already begun. Suddenly, they feel strange tremors as an earthquake starts. A portion of the rock Vova was standing on collapses, and he falls into the chasm. At the last moment, he grabs the edge of the rock but can't pull himself up. Desperately calling for help, Vitya is too scared to come near the edge. Suddenly, a hole, like a portal, opens up in the rock behind them, and Vitya is sucked into it. Waking up, Vitya sees the rock behind him, with the hole closing. Hearing a voice, he cautiously peeks out from behind a large boulder and sees a man dressed in ancient armor, holding a bouquet of flowers and talking to himself. Suddenly, a large number of other warriors appear in front of the man. After successfully repelling their attack, he is about to leave when another warrior ambushes him from behind. They engage in a sword fight, but the man is defeated and surrounded. Vitya, watching from a distance, decides to move closer but slips and falls down. At the same time, a siren starts blaring from his backpack. The megaphone has turned on. The leader of the warriors immediately orders his men to capture the boy. However, the fallen warrior, now mounted on a horse, manages to rescue Vitya and escape. They are soon pursued. As they approach the river, the young man asked Velas for help. Immediately, a stone path appeared across the water. As soon as the rider crossed the river, the path disappeared, causing the pursuing warriors to fall into the water and be dragged under. The young man brought Vitya to the outpost. Ilya and the elder Ovsi, who met him there, were very displeased that he had left the outpost without permission. The young man explained that he had accidentally arrived at a grim cliff, where he saw the Cumans trampling flowers. He became so enraged that he defeated them all by himself. Then Cuman Kanondak appeared, and if it hadn't been for this lad, who distracted them, the situation would have been much worse for him. One of the gathered men decided to bring the boy to his senses and doused him with a bucket of cold water. When Vitya came to, he initially thought it was his friend who did this, but upon looking around, he saw strange-looking people. Confused by his words, the men began to doubt if he was a Cuman scout. The elder decided that in the morning, they would take him to Velas to find out the truth. Until then, they decided to lock the boy in a shed. That night, Kanondak visited the shaman. Although the spirits had correctly pointed out where the Roman should have been, they had been unable to kill him. The boy in strange clothes had interfered. Upon hearing about the child, the shaman asked if he had a dragon's head symbol. The shaman recalled that the boy had indeed had that symbol on his back. The shaman was very pleased with this news. He had been expecting him. The spirits had sent their messenger, who would bring them boundless power. Meanwhile, Vitya was trying to understand what was happening. His thoughts were interrupted by a girl who came over and offered him some milk. He tried to ask her where he was, but she didn't quite understand his question and replied that he was in the shed. She also mentioned that the outpost was called Rymov, and it defended Rus from the Cumans. Vitya then asked what year it was and was shocked to hear that it was 1120 AD. He could hardly believe his ears. Their conversation was interrupted by the young man who wanted to thank Vitya for his help. Vitya said he urgently needed to go home, and the young man replied not to worry, he would be examined by Velas and then released. The next day, the boy was placed on a raft and sent to the middle of the river. Suddenly, the ropes holding the logs broke, and the boy sank into the water. There, he saw some strange creature, and a moment later, he was forcefully thrown back onto the shore. Returning to the outpost, the men returned Vitya's belongings to him. As they sit around the table, they introduce themselves one by one: Ilya, Dobrynya, Olishko, and Elder Ovsi. They ask him to tell them what happened. Vitya explains that he is from another time and was sucked into a hole in a cliff. However, they don't believe him, thinking he must have hit his head hard. In response, the boy takes a megaphone out of his backpack and turns it on. The loud noise causes the crowd to scatter, but it has the desired effect and convinces the warriors of the boy's story. Elder Ovsi promises to figure out how he can return home, while Ilya offers for him to stay with his sister Melanika for now. Olishko immediately volunteers to escort the boy. Upon arriving at Melanika's place, he hands Vitya over to her care. Once she leads the boy into the house, Olishko calls over her daughter, Rozanka. He is very taken with her and plans to give her a bouquet hidden behind his back. However, his plans are thwarted by a horse. While Olishko is talking to Rozanka, the animal carefully eats the flowers. When Olishko pulls the bouquet out from behind his back, all that remains is a small, chewed-up remnant. Offended by such a gift, Rozanka goes inside. That evening, the entire family, Ilya, Dobrynya, and Olishko, gathers around the table. As darkness falls and the fire crackles, they begin to sing. At that moment, Vitya comes out to them. The elder reports that he visited Veles, who said that during a solar eclipse, the hole would open again. However, when this will be is unknown. Veles also mentioned that the portal can be opened by force, but only the sorcerers know how. They need to go to them for answers. Olishko immediately says he knows a place where there are plenty of sorcerers, but Ilya cautions against leaving Rymov as it is surrounded by Cumans. The next morning, Vitya decides to explore the outpost and take some photographs. There he meets Olishko and asks him to take him to the sorcerers. Olishko says he can show him the way, but it won't be of much use. To get answers, one must pass the sorcerer's tests, with a sword, a bow, and one's wits. Vitya then asks to try and pass all these tests. Olishko decides to start with horse riding. As Vitya is about to mount the horse, someone grabs him from behind. Turning around, he sees the captured Cuman, Tugarin. After pulling his hand away, Vitya doesn't notice that a pin fell from his coat and Tugarin picks it up. Next, Olishko lets the boy shoot a bow and swing a sword. Assessing his skills, Olishko concludes that he won't succeed. The teenager then begs to be taught everything, and in exchange for the megaphone, Olishko agrees. The next day, Vitya's training begins. He learns how to handle a sword, ride a horse, and shoot a bow. Throughout the training, Alenka watches them closely. At the end of their session, Olishko shows Vitya the enormous sword of Ilya Muromets. The teenager immediately asks if Dobrynya is Dobrynya Nikitich, realizing that he is in the presence of three legendary heroes, Dobrynya Nikitich, Ilya Muromets, and Olishko Popovich. He excitedly tells Olishko that back in his time, everyone knows about them and that there are legends and tales about them. Over time, Vitya becomes proficient with the sword and bow, and Olishko draws him a map showing the way to the sorcerer. Meanwhile, the shaman continues his dark magic. Enchanting a raven, he sends it out for reconnaissance. Vitya sets out on his journey. At one point, he hears a rustling sound and decides to hide behind a tree. Peeking out cautiously with his bow ready, he encounters Alenka. The girl has come into the forest to gather mushrooms. Vitya explains that he is searching for the sorcerer and desperately needs to return home. He shows her the map and asks if she recognizes the place. Deciding to help Vitya, Alenka agrees to accompany him. Eventually, the two friends arrive at the marked location, and Vitya is instantly transported to another dimension. He finds himself in the middle of a vast frozen ocean. An unknown voice sternly demands to know who he is and why he has come. Vitya asks for help, saying he really wants to return home. The voice offers to exchange the necessary knowledge for a price. Vitya must reveal his deepest fears, and if he lies, he will remain there forever. He confesses about an accident, his fear of heights, and how this fear prevented him from helping his friend. The sorcerer accepts his confession and tells him about Perun's stone. The stone can traverse the ages, but finding it is not something any mortal can easily achieve. The stone should be sought where the wingless nest, and it will be seen when the wind is tamed. The mighty power of the stone will be released by one who can touch heart to heart. Returning to Alenka, Vitya shares the sorcerer's words with her. She immediately recalls a village they have, called Astovo. They decide to head there. Upon arriving in the village, Vitya sees houses built right on the lake. Alenka explains that the people there are very kind and have a legend that their ancestors were once storks. Vitya suddenly has an idea on how to tame the wind. He makes a small parachute and launches it into the air. The wind catches it and carries it forward, and the two of them run after it. It leads them to a spot in the lake, where Vitya dives into the water and finds the stone. The raven, which had been watching the children all this time, immediately reports this to the shaman. Suddenly, the friends hear a scream. Turning toward the noise, Alenka sees a crowd of Cumans running toward the village. Vitya and the girl hide while chaos erupts around them, with enemy warriors slaughtering all the villagers. At the watchtower, one of the guards spots smoke and realizes that the village is burning. He calls for the warriors. Dividing into two groups, Nikita and Dobrynya head one way, while Olishko and the others go the other way. Almost immediately, the two heroes encounter the Cumans, along with Vitya and Alenka. The men quickly engage in battle. Vitya notices that one of the enemies is sneaking up behind the heroes and, grabbing a bow, shoots him. Back at the outpost, Elder Ofsi scolds the children for leaving without permission. But the heroes stand up for them, saying that Vitya needs to return home. They suggest going to the Grim Cliff at dawn the next day. That night, at the Cuman camp, Khan Ondak is informed of the failure. Angry, he goes to the shaman, who promises not to make any more mistakes and to bring him the stone. The next day, Vitya, Elder Ofsi, and the heroes head to the Grim Cliff. They insert the stone into it, but it doesn't work. There is no power in it. The elder suggests waiting for a thunderstorm, as Perun is the lord of these elements, and perhaps the stone will gain power then. Returning to the outpost, Vitya finds Alenka very upset. He goes to the elder to ask for the girl's punishment to be lifted. Unexpectedly, the teenager notices blueprints for wings on the table and spots a mistake. He immediately tells the elder about it. The elder explains that he wants to design wings for the warriors so they can drop the stone onto the heads of the Cumans. Vitya offers to help. Later, the friends go for a walk. On the way, Alenka shares a legend about the stone heart. Whoever finds it will meet their true love or find a lost one. Shyly, she confesses to Vitya that she thinks he is special. After the walk, Vitya returns to Elder Ofsi's workshop and helps with the blueprints for a glider. Olishko arrives and says that Ilya is calling them immediately. When they meet the hero, they learn that the Cumans attacked Astovo deliberately. They were looking for the boy with the stone. Realizing that the artifact is in danger, the elder suggests hiding the stone somewhere. When they return to the workshop, the elder decides to hide the stone again, but it's gone. After searching the entire room, he and Vitya go outside and see Melanika cracking nuts. Taking the magical item from her, Elder Ofsi suggests taking it to the top of the watchtower. Assessing the height of the structure, Vitya flatly refuses to go up, but the elder manages to convince him, and they both head to the very top. Overcoming his fear, Vitya even risks approaching the edge to look at the surrounding landscape. After a while, the long-awaited thunderstorm begins. While talking to Alenka, Vitya notices that a large hailstorm has started. Feeling sorry for the prisoner, he covers the prison with a canopy. That night, lightning strikes the highest point of the observation tower. Some stones fall down to the base of the prison where the prisoner is kept. Tugarin manages to escape and returns to his brother, Khan Ondak. But Ondak is not very pleased to see him and orders his servants to take the man out of his tent. Kicking Tugarin's belongings with anger, he says that the gods have turned away from him again. But suddenly, the shaman notices a fallen stone from Perun that was brought by the Khan's brother. In the morning at the outpost, Grandpa Ofsi discovers the missing stone and Tugarin. Tugarin has fled with the artifact. Olishko suggests sneaking into their camp at night to steal it back. The elder agrees, and they need to finish the hang glider immediately. The boy and the man get to work right away. The device is almost ready, just needs to be painted black. In the Polovtsian camp, the Khan demands the promised power from the shaman. But the shaman says that the stone has no power and only the one who found it can breathe power into it. The next day, Grandpa Ofsi and Alenka go to collect dirt for the warriors. The girl suggests picking some berries for Vitya for the journey, and the man lets her go into the forest. Away from the elder, several Polovtsians attack the girl. After stunning her, they throw her onto a horse and prepare to leave. But Grandpa Ofsi intervenes. After a struggle, they manage to severely wound him and escape with the girl. By evening, the man is found and brought to the outpost. He tells the heroes that Alenka has been kidnapped. After promising to rescue the girl, Grandpa Ofsi dies. Meanwhile, the girl is brought to the Khan. He, enraged, beats the servant and orders him to bring the boy. At the outpost, Vitya, in Grandpa Ofsi's workshop, mourns the deceased. Suddenly, he sees a raven landing on the windows. Taking a scrap of paper from its claws, he realizes it's a message from the girl. Quickly gathering his things, the boy sets off after the bird to save his friend. Upon reaching the Polovtsian camp, he finds the girl and tells her that Grandpa Ofsi has died. Separated once more, the shaman gives Vitya the stone, so he can imbue it with power. The boy agrees but asks for his backpack in return. Using fireworks and smoke bombs, he creates chaos in the camp and tries to escape with the girl. However, the Khan isn't fooled by the spectacle and stops the children. Tying up the boy, he gives him one last chance, or Alenka will die. Vitya agrees but demands a promise that they won't be killed. Taking the stone in his hands, the boy suddenly realizes what needs to be done. Handing it to his friend, they both imbue the artifact with power and give it to Ondak. To keep his word, the Khan calls Tugarin and orders him to kill the children. Using the Perun stone, the shaman begins to cast a spell. From the surrounding boulders and mountains, he creates a giant. At this time, the teenagers are about to be executed. Tugarin is ready to behead the boy, but he remembers how Vitya sheltered him from the hail. At the last moment, he changes his mind and kills the Khan's soldiers instead. Freeing the children, he gives them a chance to escape. Enraged by his brother's actions, Ondak kills Tugarin. On their way to the outpost, the friends encounter heroes who are on their way to rescue them. Returning to the outpost together, Vitya explains about the terrifying creature the shaman brought to life. After a while, the sentry on the tower spots an approaching Palovsian horde and raises the alarm. A massive army is advancing, and with them is the stone golem created by the shaman. Not knowing how to fight it, the defenders try various weapons, but nothing works. The heroes order the women and children to seek shelter. Olishko comes up with an idea. He mounts a horse and charges at the golem. By angering the creature with his antics, he manages to lure it into the water, where help arrives from Veles. Not knowing if Olishko survived, Rozanka runs to the riverbank and calls for him. The heroes approaching from behind tell her that he is dead. But at that moment, the boy emerges from the water. The overjoyed girl rushes to embrace him and confesses her love. Suddenly, Vitya notices that a solar eclipse has begun. Saying goodbye to Rozanka, the boy heads to the cliff. Meanwhile, the Palovsians attack, breaching the fortification and starting a battle. Despite the enemy's numerical superiority, the warriors manage to repel the attack and drive them out of the outpost. However, their victory is short-lived. The shaman has succeeded in resurrecting the golem. At this moment, Vitya returns to Rymov with an idea on how to stop the shaman. Climbing to the top of the observation tower, the boy puts on the hang glider. Standing on the edge, he overcomes his fear and steps into the unknown. Diving down with the stone, he manages to stabilize the glider and fly to the shaman. After knocking the stone from the shaman's hands, Vitya makes a rough landing on the rocks, but Ondak is waiting for him there. Demanding the artifact, the Khan is instead met with the boy throwing it into the water. The magical power of the stone immediately dissipates, and the golem crumbles. Seeking revenge, the Khan attacks Vitya, but Olishko comes to his aid. After a brief struggle, Olishko manages to throw the Palovsian off the cliff. Realizing he has very little time, the boy urgently asks to be taken to the gloomy rock. Reaching the spot, Vitya says goodbye to the hero. Just as he is about to leave, he hears Alenka's cry. She has come to say goodbye. Understanding they will probably never see each other again, she kisses him. Vitya takes a step and falls into the portal. Returning to the present time, Vitya sees his friend Vova hanging on the edge of a cliff. Rushing to him, the boy grabs his hand and pulls him to safety. Vova, upset, says he thought his end had come and that Vitya had been scared. Vitya admits that he was. At first, he was frightened, then got sucked into the portal, faced trials in the swamps, met heroes, fought with the Palovsians, dealt with a magical stone, and confronted a golem. As Vitya recounts his adventure, Vova's eyes widen more and more. Meanwhile, the whole class, watching the rescue, applauds, impressed by Vitya's bravery. A year later, Vitya's mother presents him with an ancient book. As he delves into its pages, he uncovers a mysterious legend about the stone heart, a relic said to hold great power. Vitya embarks on a quest to find this legendary artifact. After a long and arduous journey, he finally locates the stone heart. When he touches it and whispers a girl's name, a magical connection is established. Simultaneously, 1,000 years earlier, Alenka stumbled upon the very same stone. As she reaches out to touch it, an inexplicable bond forms across the centuries. Both Vitya and Alenka feel a connection. Do you think these heroes actually existed in real life, or are they merely figures of legend? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.